and I've already managed to withdraw $1,000 using prop trading.
There was some kind of plan, and we're sticking to it somehow. Trading essentially allows you to combine some useful work with working in the financial markets. In essence, you'll have two sources of income.
It happened fast, just started, and already a withdrawal.
It's important for every trader to go through some kind of challenge. This is a good sign that you are moving and developing in the right direction.
Today we have Artem on the interview, who over the course of a year and a half developed his own personal trading strategy and was able to earn $1,000 on the prop trading platform Upscale, which allows you to unlock your trading potential and get up to $400,000 under management. In the next episode, we will look at his trading strategy, what it's based on, and Artem will share his useful insights. With you, as always, is Igor Fox. You are on the Upscale channel. Let's go. Tell me, please, I understand you came to us from Yashkarola, right?
Not exactly. I'm from Moscow. I was born here. So the picture is more of a souvenir from a trip.
Please introduce yourself. Tell us how many years you've been trading and what your results are on Upscale.
My name is Artem. I'm 26 years old. I've been trading for about a year and a half, so a relatively short period of time. I found out about Upscale somewhere at the end of winter in the spring of 2026. And accordingly, I initially tried trading on a demo account. And when I honed it or realized that my trading strategy was working, I switched to a real account. So I passed the challenge on a $10,000 account and accordingly withdrew exactly 990 USDT from it.
Wonderful. We can even round it up. $1,000. You started just a year and a half ago, and you've already withdrawn $1,000 through prop trading.
Yes, I believe that, let's say, if I had found out about the existence of prop firms much earlier and started honing my trading strategy sooner, the result would have been much better.
I think both I and our viewers are very interested in what happened to you over these past year and a half. I mean, where did you start, what did you run into, and what have you arrived at?
Naturally, there were liquidations too, just like everyone else. I mean, I think the first liquidation is the most painful. I even heard a quote from an experienced trader recently. He says, "Initially, when you enter the market, no matter how much money you put in, you will lose it all. So until that first loss, it doesn't matter what amount you started with, it will be lost regardless." Accordingly, I had that happen too, just like everyone else. And then I was fortunate enough to learn about the existence of prop firms. I found out about it in one of the communities, a community that I'm a part of. I started trading with the company CFT Trade. It's an American company, but naturally my initial challenges were unsuccessful. And after I failed them, I started thinking more about how and what I needed to change in my trading strategy to avoid this later on in the future. I didn't acquire or buy any new challenges. I was just more focused on studying the market and trading, as a rule either on a demo account or a real account. But these were really small amounts, let's say within the range of an average monthly salary in Russia. And accordingly, after that, I was lucky enough to find out about the existence of Upscale. From the reviews of other users, I realized that this prop firm is more suitable for people from the CIS, for people from CIS countries. And accordingly, I successfully started trading on this very platform. Then, thanks to, again, repeated attempts at the demo account, I honed my trading strategy and brought it to a level where, thanks to a system and perhaps some discipline, I managed to pass the real challenge.
You had some kind of system, you stuck to it, as they say, when it came down to it.
Yes, exactly. There was a plan and we stuck to it somehow.
By the way, I want to highlight for our audience that Upscale is available not only in the CIS, but also in America, Brazil, wherever you like, even in Africa. That's why, so click the link in the description, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and don't forget to leave a comment. We're continuing, and what actually motivated you to switch to trading?
The global goal here is quite clear. Of course, I'd really love to reach some kind of steady, consistent income from this. The vision is that, in the future, I can finally be financially free and independent. This would allow me to leave my 9-to-5 job behind and bring real value to people in other ways. That way, I won't have to think about dragging myself to work on a Monday morning and can instead focus entirely on my other desires.
Wait, so what about getting covered in aviation fuel on a Monday morning or, I don't know, tightening a bolt, no?
There are plenty of pluses to that too. Actually, I've had an interest in the financial market for quite a long time. probably since my school or college days. I think that if there's some interest in it, it's worth satisfying, including from the perspective that you mentioned, that there's some kind of romance in, tightening bolts and so on, right? From this point of view, trading essentially allows you to combine some useful work that brings you pleasure and benefits society while employed with working in the financial markets, where, in fact, you will have two sources of income.
Listen, well, that's actually what you're doing. I mean, you work as an air traffic controller, and then during your lunch break, you go into the bathroom and open up some trades.
Well, not exactly during breaks, of course. To avoid getting distracted, I try to do it on the weekends instead. Yes, sometimes I do have to analyze the market. For example, you wake up at night between shifts, some important news comes out, and you're like, you checked it, the news seems neutral, and you think, sleep, what's that?
Well, let's take a look at your trading strategy then.
Regarding the trading strategy, I actually just opened a trade recently. If we run through it really quickly, the stop loss is placed incorrectly here. Yeah, it would have been correct to place it at 65,750, meaning behind this wick right here, we've opened the 4-hour time frame now. And if we're talking about the 4-hour time frame, yes, there is a certain buyer's zone of interest and a seller's zone of interest there. There is a clearly defined seller's zone of interest here. It starts roughly from the 64,750 zone and ends around the price of 65,750. Why is this a clearly defined seller's zone? Because on the 4-hour time frame, we can see quite large wicks here, so-called shadows, yes, shadows of the red candles. From these shadows, we see a substantial reaction downwards. There is a high probability that upon reaching this zone again, we will see a reaction. It may not be as strong, but a reaction is likely. And just recently, yes, literally yesterday or the day before, the price once again reached the seller's zone. And at the mark of, let's see, 64,800, I took a short position since this is a demo account. I opened it on a demo account just to test my convictions and, you could say, to learn from it once again. So I set the stop at 66,000, just a round number. I would have set the stop at 65,750 on a real account because it's just a shorter stop, more, let's say, less of a loss if the position suddenly hits the stop. And plus, as a recommendation, if you are trading, let's say, intraday only, then it's better to enter a position with a slightly larger volume, but close it earlier. But if, for example, the trade is held for a few days, then in that case, it's better to enter with a smaller volume and accordingly close the trade a bit later. Because if you enter with too large a volume, the trade, within the risk management rules of prop firms, including Upscale, might be closed at a loss and in a very, very unfavorable way. Because you all know that risk metrics are updated at 3 a.m. Moscow time, and in that case, you have to, so to speak, update your stop periodically. That's why it's better to enter with a smaller volume.
I just want to point out here that what Artem talked about is called the daily drawdown. And yes, indeed, it resets every day at midnight UTC. And it's worth considering that if you have an unrealized P&L by the end of the day, right around that midnight mark, and then, for example, while you're sleeping, that unrealized P&L decides to pull back, and that amount ends up exceeding your daily drawdown limit, then yes, your account could indeed be closed. It's advisable to keep an eye on this metric. That's a little insight for you, but at the same time, everything is shown in the interface. It's all quite transparent and, naturally, honest.
So, I have this Telegram bot that I pay for monthly, which notifies me about certain large liquidations on specific coins. As a rule, it's Bitcoin and Ether. So, you shouldn't blindly jump into a trade based on a signal from the bot just because some liquidation happened. This bot started reporting some really large short liquidations, literally from the price of 63,900. From 63,900 to 64,800, it sent notifications about liquidations, but as we can see, the price actually reversed and showed at least some small reaction only from the 64,800 zone, where it started to go down. Why did this happen again? Because when the price was lower, we hadn't reached the seller's zone yet. And we can see that as soon as the price reached the so-called designated seller's zone, which is clearly visible here due to the long wicks on the 4-hour time frame, yes, at the top, then accordingly, right at this spot, I went ahead and opened a short position. There is also another kind of indicator. This is an indicator of bids and asks, the so-called supply and demand metric on futures positions, yes. Futures positions, as we know, drive the price accordingly, either up or down. And in this situation, just literally on August 5th, a couple of days ago, a notification came through that a future seller was dominated. That is, right at the price of 64,800, someone was very actively opening short positions, meaning they were pushing the price down. And accordingly, as soon as this indicator comes in, we can see that from this zone, from the 64,800 zone, we are seeing a price decline. In this situation, if this were actually my own, meaning not a demo account but my real position, I would have already closed it literally there. If you look on the 2 or 4 hour time frames, there was already enough of a reaction to close the position for a small profit and move the stop loss to break even, or just close it out completely and wait for new variables. Since this is a demo account and I'm testing how well these signals from this bot actually work, I'm continuing to hold the position because I'm just curious to see how strongly the price will react to the downside.
I think it's worth noting here that you aren't just blindly following the signals, but are also evaluating the situation yourself. So you're basically ending up with a symbiotic trading style, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, if you were to just blindly follow the bot signals, you'd need to set a very wide stop in this case. And if you set a very wide stop, there's a chance that in this case, according to the prop firm's rules, including Upscale's, you could simply exceed the daily drawdown limit and thus fail the challenge. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. In other words, you need to wait for certain strong levels on the asset. And only when the asset reaches a certain strong seller or buyer level do you open that bot. And as soon as some major liquidations occur, because as we know, price generally moves from one liquidation to another, right? Accordingly, if some major liquidations have occurred, then the price has, so to speak, fulfilled a certain function that it needed to perform in order to reach a specific level, right? And after reaching that specific level, some kind of reaction will follow. If the reaction is significant, the profit will be significant. If the reaction is small, then even a 0.5% profit, when trading systematically and regularly over the course of a month, will still yield a more substantial profit. That is what my trading strategy consists of.
I also want to point out to our viewers here that all risk parameters, limits, and trading rules for obtaining capital management on Upscale, in particular, are available via the link in the description. There is also a subscribe button right there. Not hinting at anything, but yeah. We'll move on to the certificate section, and you'll show us your beauty.
So here is the certificate showing that the challenge was passed. And the second certificate, in this case, is for the withdrawal.
Listen, do I remember correctly that you had an increased profit split here? Instead of 80-20, you had 90-10?
Yes, I had 90-10. That was actually thanks to some promotion from Upscale. I thought it was a good opportunity to purchase the challenge on more acceptable terms. And it helped me sort of to increase, in essence, the profit one time in this payout.
Can you go to the trading strategy control? Well, let's take a look.
So the report has arrived, yes. Accordingly, there are 3 errors here, probably. Well, let's start with that. Yes, that's exactly it, what I was talking about, that some trades led to significant losses. I mean, if the losses had been insignificant, then it would have been possible to achieve more substantial results. Exceeding the allowable limits. And by the way, yes, in this account I had, well, an overall drawdown, yes, it was exceeded, but in this account I also had daily drawdown protection enabled. I remember I once just wanted to see how it works. And in the end, I realized that in this case, all trades are simply closed automatically. Trading only becomes available again the next day. But actually, it's better not to do that. It's better to just set a stop loss in advance so that the loss is less than the allowable daily drawdown. And regarding impulsive decisions, that's exactly where this happens, or rather happened, because I would enter some trades based on liquidation signals for Bitcoin, and often when I entered on that signal, I saw that the price reacted weakly to it, so I would exit the trade for a small profit. Some trades were open way too often, and because of that, but they could have been avoided.
Don't you get the feeling that Upscale just laid out the entire inside story of your trading? Precisely because of the report.
Yeah, I do get that feeling that, let's say, if you do this rep report more often, mistakes will be made less frequently.
But at the same time, it also gave you some praise. I mean, we can see that you have a 71% win rate, and at the same time, your average position holding time is quite long. So, despite the fact that you had a lot of impulsive decisions, you held your position for a long time quite often. It's just that, statistically, traders who hold positions longer than, say, a few seconds are more profitable. That's already a proven thing, and we can see that you trade many assets. I mean, you're not just limiting yourself to Bitcoin.
Well, by the way, the flexibility of using different assets is good on one hand, but on the other hand, you can still notice that these are exclusively large assets. So it's not like some small cap altcoins.
I'm interested in the following fact. You said that initially you traded on CFT and then switched to Upscale. Can you tell me what you liked more about Upscale than Crypto Fund Trader?
Regarding CFT, I traded it using the Bybit exchange. I mean, there is an option there to connect the Bybit exchange and a CFT account. On one hand, with Bybit, yes, there are many pros. A huge number of assets, coins, the ability to set absolutely different leverage that you want, more functionality in terms of tools. But on the other hand, there are more significant cons. First of all, the Bybit exchange only worked for me with a VPN. I don't know why, but specifically in Moscow, that's how it is. Secondly, from the Upscale perspective, on the contrary, you can download the Upscale app on an iPhone, and it will work without a VPN.
You can also get it on Android, Windows, and Mac OS. So, not just iPhone.
By the way, yeah, you can also install the Upscale app on a Mac, but I don't actually do that. I mainly just analyze the market on my laptop, but I enter positions specifically on my phone. As for other downsides of CFT, for example, in Upscale, well, I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's all individual. But in Upscale, I like it better this way. The interface looks more pleasing to the eye. I don't seem to like CFT and the Bybit exchange because it's hard to explain. Well, it's like, there's iPhone and there's Android OS and there's iOS. There's Windows, there's Mac OS. It's about the same difference. So it's just the interface from a design perspective, how it's rendered. In Upscale, it looks more pleasing. It's hard to explain because perhaps it's more pleasing to me, but for another person, it might be less pleasing. And plus, in Upscale, since I'm a bit of a minimalist in life, I don't like it when there's a lot of extra stuff that you don't use. And in Upscale, the interface is actually very minimalist, and only those tools are added that are, in essence, necessary for successful intraday trading, that is, trading within the day. What other downsides can be noted? Yeah, probably the main thing I would say is just that. Plus, Upscale has 24/7 support in Russian. That is, you can write in the chat, you can write on Telegram. So there's a Telegram bot where an operator answers you personally. And there is, for example, also a Telegram, channel with a chat inside where there are various
communities,
tabs, And there is a chat tab where you can write directly into the chat. And there is always an Upscale representative in the chat who regularly answers users' questions in Russian. That's very convenient. Well, specifically with CFT, you actually have to communicate in English and only via email, and they take longer to respond. That, of course, is less acceptable for CIS users.
I'll also note here that our interview will also be in English, just so you know. And accordingly, we also have Discord available where you can reach out in English. You can also reach out in English on Telegram, including to technical support. So you are not limited to just the Russian language. Why should a trader definitely try prop trading?
There's this fairly well-known crypto influencer. He's even the creator of his own exchange. His name is Thomas Krallo. You've probably heard of him.
I have.
Even if you haven't, I recently heard a thought in one of his videos that if you're really worth something and understand something about trading and know how to manage risks and emotions, then it won't be a big deal for you to pass a prop company challenge. I actually caught myself thinking that it really is true. When I started to see some initial success and understanding in trading, that led to my first payout at Upscale.
It's like in a blink of an eye, you just started and already a payout.
Well, not exactly just started, but still a year and a half. That's not just started. Let's put it that way. Based on this thought from Thomas Krallo, I realized that it's important for every trader to go through some kind of challenge, at least some kind, because that way you'll understand if you really know the market, if you understand anything about it at all. Or if you just can't seem to pass the challenge, it's a signal that you should either, let's say, read some literature, change your trading strategy, maybe see a psychologist to trade better and manage your emotions better, or perhaps sign up for some courses, find a mentor, but somehow improve your trading skills. But if you have managed to pass this challenge at least once, yes, if you are doing this regularly, passing them and gradually increasing the volume of funds available to you for trading, then that is a good sign that you are moving and developing in the right direction. Therefore, I think that everyone should try their hand at this.
What did you spend your $1,000 profit from Upscale on?
I just spent half of the profit on my personal needs. basically for everyday expenses. And half of the profit I deposited into the exchange. I started trying to trade low liquidity assets little by little. I mean, some shitcoins, but in the end, sometimes I made money, sometimes I lost, and basically, my profit stayed at the same place. It remained. There is this trading strategy. You've probably heard that many shitcoins that, let's say, grew really well, they most likely also roll back down. And so I tried, to work out this trading strategy of shorting shitcoins that aren't really worth anything. And as a rule, everyone sells them, right? I tried to short them, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But in the end, basically, I didn't increase my deposit, nor did I decrease it. It just stayed at the same level, and right now I'm just holding it as a kind of reserve so that in the future, I might possibly buy another account in the Upscale prop firm and increase my deposit.
Any closing thought that isn't related to trading?
Listen, what's much more important in this life isn't trading, isn't work, isn't even the opinions of other people in general, not even YouTube, which people are watching right now. What's much more important in this life is family and the people who surround us. Because that's something you can't buy with money. You need to treat that with greater value.
I think it's worth recommending to our viewers to take a moment to think about their relatives. Maybe give someone a call or chat with friends, if they have any. And wrap up the interview on that note, which would be wonderful. As always, this has been Igor Fox with you. See you at the top.